It's a pleasure to be joined by this man who has been a part of so many historic moments in MMA with fighters such as Cain Velasquez, Luke Rockhold, Daniel Cormier, and this past weekend, Khabib Nurmagomedov, as he retired in the middle of the octagon at UFC 254. Javier Mendez, welcome to Submission Radio. We appreciate you joining us in the aftermath of this incredible event.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, you guys. Not a problem. Not a problem. Always, guys.
Oh, believe me, the pleasure is absolutely ours. Man, I gotta ask, we're still very much in the aftermath of Khabib's win and, of course, the retirement. What's the last 24 hours been like for you since that win? I see you guys, you got snakes in the gym or something. What's going on?
Oh, God, yeah. The snake, this camp, it's like, first and foremost, I want to thank Nas training facility and the Prince Hamad. He hosted us for this great camp that we had, and as far as hospitality and amenities and what we had to work with was incredible. But as far as team thing and luck, we had the worst luck ever for this camp. It was incredible how bad it was. But at the end of the day, every camp has problems, and we had our share on this one. But he was ready mentally to go and physically to go. Not 100% physically, but he was ready. And he's as ready as you could be, I guess, when you think about the whole thing.
Are you talking about just the broken foot, or are you talking about other things? And how did this broken foot happen?
Well, other things. I mean, when he got here, I believe on September 11th, he had the mumps. And mumps. And, so it took him about 2 weeks of training, and he got the mumps, I guess, the day before his father's event in Russia. So he came here with the mumps. And he tried training a couple of days really light, but then he got so sick he had to be hospitalized. So he was in the hospital for 3 days. He comes out, and I'm like going, oh, I'm ready shitting, man. I'm going, oh, man, we're fighting such a great warrior like Justin, and we're already starting off on the bad foot. And I'm like going, this really sucks, So he starts training really light 1 week. And then the second week we had to get some sparring in because, without sparring, you don't know where you're at. So we have one sparring session. He looked okay, not like I wanted him to look, but he looked okay, And the second sparring session, he was looking great. And all of a sudden, midway in the second round, boom, he stops. I go, what the heck happened? Broke his freaking toe. And I'm like, oh, great. Broken toe. Now we have to wait more time, for him to heal before we can start training again. So that really jacked everything up, But at the end of the day, like I said, we all have things that happen, mishap in camp. This was just one of our worst for him. And the one thing he said, 6 days out before the event, he said, Coach, he goes, my toe may be broken, but my mind is not. And we worked on stuff like that forever, from his father to me, that when he said that my mind is not, I already knew that we're winning this fight no matter what. And he looked, in all honesty, his last sparring sessions, he looked fantastic. The last sparring session he had, he sparred with Usman, his cousin, who is a phenom. He looked so incredible. I said, oh, we're good. We're good. So really, if things didn't go our way, you wouldn't hear me talking about this, because then we're crying sour grapes, and I didn't want to do that. But due to the fact that he did win, I just stayed out the facts. It was the worst camp for us. And
that's unbelievable.
Injuries and stuff.
That's unbelievable. The mumps and a broken toe. I'm wondering as well, Coach, before we even get to the fight, the weight cut. I mean, it's incredibly difficult to lose that weight if you're not 100%, and also if you've got to deal with the toe and you can't run as much as you usually do. How much did it impact you guys actually trying to make weight for the event? Was there any hurdles in that regard?
No, there wasn't. And that's what shocks me, because, look, listen, this is what was going on. We were going to do the weight cut. We started Wednesday. He started Wednesday on the weight cut. And then Thursday, he did a weight cut in the morning. And then we're going to do one later in the evening. But he was only 6 pounds off, right? He was 6 pounds off on Thursday morning. So he said, Coach, I feel strong. I'm not going to do the night workout. I'm just going to go in the morning and do the weight cut and go from there. So I said, if you don't mind, I don't want to go to the final weight cut because it's too early for me. It was like 6:30 when they started the weight cut. He goes, no problem. I'm never there anyways. So all of a sudden, I get up around 9, and I said, hey, how did the weight cut go? And Omar, who I call the fixer, said, "Oh, perfect. Everything was great. He was strong, the whole bit." So next thing you know, I get all these calls like, "Hey, what's going on with the weight cut? Did Khabib have problems with weight?" And I'm like, "What the hell are people talking about? He had no problem. He was right on point." I go, "There's no way something went wrong." And then I watched the weigh-in, right? And the guys that were doing the scale thing, man, those guys were like Speedy Gonzalez. What the hell were they doing? That was so damn quick the way they did that. I would think something's up myself personally, because if you watch the weight, which I did watch, Khabib grabbed both those guys' hands, he steps on the scale, and as soon as he releases his hand, the guys are like already, it's like, what the fuck? Why did they go so fast with the scale? He was on weight. He was on point. But I didn't know why I was getting all these calls, and then I looked and I go, oh, okay, that's why. But if you really, really look, you can see he was on point. But it did look suspicious, no doubt. But it wasn't his fault. That was the people doing the weigh-ins. They were doing it fast. I heard they did it for other people that fast too. So, and then also too, it's like anybody knows, they weigh you before you go to the weigh-ins. They weigh you right before you go out. Okay, they weigh you, so they make sure you're on point. Number one. Number two, if Khabib was having problems weight, why the hell would he be the first one knowing they're going to weigh him? He wouldn't want to be the first one out. He was the first one out because he was on weight and he wanted to get out of there and start eating.
Well, there you go. Thank you for clarifying that, Harv. He made the weight, made it to the fight, despite all the crazy things that happened in the camp. And then before we talk about the actual fight itself and the performance, which is a fantastic one, looking at Khabib walking out, during his entrance, it was so different. Normally a really stoic guy, you could see him, it almost looked like he wanted to hide tears, and it felt like the moment was kind of, I don't want to say getting to him, but he certainly felt something about it. What was it like for you coaching him in this fight? And what was going through your mind sort of moments before the Gaethje fight actually started?
Well, before the fight was going on, I was going, my mind was going, is he going to hold it together? Yes. And then I was going, doubtful. I'm going, uh-oh. And then I'm going, yes, no, he's on. Then I go, uh-oh. And yes, he's on. So in my mind, I was teeter-tottering back and forth. Am I going to get him the way I need him? I said yes. And then at the very, very end there, I felt very confident. But there was a time there when I was going, oh, okay, this is a little bit different. Not too different, but a little bit. But, as a coach, you notice your fighters' antics and what they do and what they don't do. And this was a little bit different than the last time, but I understood why. I knew why. His father was the one thing that was missing. His father, even though his father wasn't there for the vast majority of the UFC events, doesn't matter. His father was still there in his ear. His father was still there within a phone call. And this time he wasn't.
I'm wondering, did you know about the retirement before you walked out? Did the team know about the retirement before they walked out? Or when did you actually learn about it?
I learned about it while I was giving the speech. My jaw dropped. I went, what? He played the best poker face on the planet.
He never mentioned it in camp, never mentioned it at all leading into the fight to you, never?
Nothing. The only thing, and I never didn't talk about father either because, I didn't want to touch on that subject because I didn't want to, get him sad because I never really got to talk to him about his father, about how he felt, and because it was past, and I figured, you know what, that's on the past. I'm not bringing any of that up. So all of this was a total shock to me. I'm listening to it, and I'm like going, oh man, father's plan, great, but mother's plan works in the end. His mother's was for him to please not fight without his father, and that's what he did. And respect. This sport is not a longevity sport. It's come in, come out, and he's coming out at the time that he feels is the right time for himself and his family, and obviously me, myself, I would have liked to have seen him go 30-0 like his father wished, but, he loves his mother so much and his family that he decided that, no, it's time. And financially he's set, so he's not a greedy man. And you guys know as well as I know that if he hung out one more fight, it would have been a monster payday, but obviously, family means more to him than money and everything he does. That's why people love him so much. That's why, the Middle East has gotten so huge in popularity of MMA. It's all solely because of Khabib, number one. There's other factors, of course, but he's the number one reason. And organizations like the UA Warriors, that's here in Abu Dhabi, with the president fought. That guy's an incredible promoter. Expect a lot of great things from that guy. He's awesome. and they got some good things going over here. And then they got Braves too, I guess. But the Fod guy, I went to his show at the UAAE Warriors. I'm sorry. It was an incredible show. I was like, wow, these guys are professional, top notch.
What was the conversation like after the fight about the retirement? I know you said you didn't know it was happening. I imagine at some point when you got in the locker room or that night, you guys would have talked about it. What was that conversation that you had like with Khabib?
Non-existent. I didn't talk to him about it.
Why?
I just figured, hey, that was his wishes. I heard like everybody else heard. I don't need to discuss it. To me, it was like, hey, it was mother's plan, and his mother wanted him to retire, and he promised her, and the promise is a promise, and I just look, hey, there's no need for me to go on that. If he discusses it with me, no problem. We'll talk about it, and I'll give him my opinion. But his decision was made, and I stand by his decision. And if he ever changes his mind, he'll talk to me, or he won't talk to me. But I'll stand by that decision. But right now, I'll never discuss why'd you retire. No, I heard it like you guys did. So it's done. Now it's time to focus on the new crop of guys he has and my guys that I have. I mean, we have a lot of people that are hungry. We have a lot of people that want the opportunities, and Khabib is going to do his best to give them those opportunities, as well as me being the coach for a whole bunch of up-and-coming guys, and hopefully we can propel more people to stardom. We'll see. I mean, anything could happen, but the goal is to create more stars.
Oh, well, absolutely. We're going to ask you about, the new crop of fighters as well. But just one more thing, just on the retirement. I know you didn't talk to him about it, but I wanted to ask you, how much do you think it was sort of, mother's plan and him making a very admirable promise to his mother, and as opposed to also the fact that, his father was intertwined in basically every single aspect of his career. And I imagine just going on without his father would have been, that much more difficult for him, as far as career goes.
I agree 100%. Look at all the tears he cried at the end. He was crying a lot, guys. I mean, really, there was a lot of emotion, a lot of sorrow there. And I just went up to him and said, I love you, and cried. Go ahead, let it all out, I mean, he deserved it. He bottled that up, man. He bottled that up. That was all bottled up inside, and it drove him to what he did. It's like he said, Coach, my toe is broken, but my mind is not, and that just goes to explain how powerful the mind is and how powerful his mind was. And I always knew that as long as this man had the faith in himself, his family, and his religion, that he can never be broken. I knew that from 2012.
A beautiful moment indeed. You mentioned it before when you were talking about him retiring, but do you think there's a chance he could ever change his mind? Khabib kind of seems like the kind of guy that when he says something, that's kind of it. And we know in MMA retirements happen all the time and people come back all the time, but many people think that this is it. This really was the last time we saw Khabib in an octagon.
Well, as a fighter, yeah, it probably very well could 100% be it as a fighter, but not as a coach. He promised me that he would help me coach his guys together. So when the Eagles team MMA or anybody of my guys that want his help and he wants to help, he's going to be in the corner with me. So he's not done with MMA. Just done with the now it's the mind game that he's going to be playing with me against other opponents with our fighters. That's the arena we are headed into now with him. Of course, he has many businesses that he has been establishing, the foundations where he's opening up gyms around the world. He started in the UK before the pandemic, where he's offering free lessons, gyms for underprivileged kids. He was starting that before the pandemic hit. They were in the process of building gyms for underprivileged kids to come train for free. So that's the kind of humanitarian good things his father was trying to do, and Khabib's fulfilling the legacy of what his father wanted to do.
So as a fighter, though, you don't really see a scenario that could bring him back. I mean, from everything that he said, it does really sound like he's done with the sport.
Unless he changes his mind, I don't see the reason why he's never been somebody that said something and not meant it. I would have to say that part's done. I mean, sure, anything's possible, but as much as the fans and even myself as a coach, I would love to have him back. But No, no, I think he's done. And like I said, you're not going to get me trying to convince him otherwise. I'm gonna basically, if anything, I'll say, hey, you said you're retired, stay retired. And my feeling on it personally is, the longer you stay away from the sport, let's say 1-2 years go by, I think it's a mistake to try to come back at that point in juncture, because you're going to be behind the times. Everybody keeps evolving all the time. The fighters get better, the techniques get better, the coaching gets better. And I think he'll be behind behind. So I don't think it's a wise idea. I think he has so many Eagles MMA guys that got great talent. Islam Makhachev, Umar, his cousin, and Usman, who I've been touting as the next superstar with the right grooving. He will be a superstar. I call him the Luke Rockhold of Dagestan.
Well, then
gets all the ladies.
Yeah, all the women of Dagestan better watch out. Well, obviously we got to ask also, what did you think of the performance itself? Because a lot of people kind of find it funny that Khabib retired on what could be his best career performance. What did you think of the win over Justin Gaethje?
I thought the win was, for the first time, and I repeat this, for the first time, without his father's presence. Like when he fought Dustin, I said he fought father's plan exactly the way we wanted. Well, in all honesty, this is the first time he actually listened to my plan, exactly the way I wanted it. I'm sure if his father was around, his father would have wanted the same thing. So I call it father's plan. But the whole idea was we're supposed to stay relaxed. We come out there. We don't rush nothing. We wanted to see where he was at. So I wanted him to stay on the outside, and I call it like Cain Velasquez style. So basically, he did what I always taught Cain, is how to stay outside and then put pressure. Nothing but constant pressure. If you guys watch the fight, you rewatch what you see, you'll probably hear me say Cain Velasquez style, blah 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 blah. Stay relaxed, outside, and then all of a sudden the pressure. Then I'm pressure, and continuous pressure. Because one thing I was very confident in is I felt that Justin was not going to be used to that kind of pressure, because a lot of people are more wary of his heavy hands. And I mean, come on, man, the guy's a freaking stud. He's a freaking stud, and it was a matter for me of out mastering his great coach. I had to figure, okay, how am I going to do this? And I said, okay, number one, if I was that coach, what would I do? I said, number one, I would go for Khabib's legs. I would go calf kick the hell out of his legs. Because that's what's going to slow him down. And then, so I told Khabib right from the get-go, he's going to come after you with calf kicks. So we need to prepare. So obviously being sick for 2 weeks, getting a broken foot, that kind of killed the calf kick kind of checking and drilling, So that kind of worried me. But at the very end there, like I said, my mind is not broken, even though my toes are. That played a big factor.
That's right. The toes are broken, but the mind is not. Absolutely rock solid. Just like our sponsor, Manscaped, who are currently offering the best trimmer on the market, the Lawnmower 3.0, to shave your beans. The best trimmer, 7,000 RPM motor. Don't quote me on this one, but I believe it can power 3 houses at the same time. And we're offering a 20% off code with the code submission. Isn't that right, Dennis?
That's right, man. Of course, the Lawnmower 3.0. It's a sexy-looking mower. It gets the job done. Don't go to the gym and stink out the place with some stinky balls. Make sure you're in shape and ready to go with Manscaped. And like you mentioned, jump on manscaped.com right now. Put in submission as your code. Get 20% off and get your free shipping. Some incredible packages available. The official sponsor for Submission Radio. Make sure you're sharp. Make sure you're ready. Make sure you're Manscaped. But speaking of ready, Coach, I mean, in this fight with Khabib, we saw him go for a number of submissions off his back. He went for an armbar. He finished it off with a triangle. Was that always the plan going into the fight, for him to work for submissions off his back?
Well, that I leave him alone to him. And his thought process on that was that, the reason why he went for the triangle at the end rather than armbar, because he said he was probably pretty strong. He felt pretty strong, and it would be something that he probably get away with. So he went for the triangle at the very end. And he just felt, I mean, if you watch it, I mean, the one thing that I always said, and I told you guys that I felt, because I think that once on the ground, Justin was going to be at a disadvantage because he hasn't been there. He hasn't been there enough in real fights. So he was, too. He was at a disadvantage because he hadn't been in real fights in where he might have done it in practice, but he hadn't been in real fights where he had to fight off the ground. And I think that hurt him personally. And I knew that was going to be a problem for him because of that. At least I was hoping it was going to be a problem. It turned out to be a problem.
Man, unbelievable. 29-0, never knocked down, never cut, never lost a fight. I mean, as perfect a career as you could ever hope for. People are obviously discussing Khabib's place as far as the pound for pound #1 list. He said that's what he wants from the UFC come Tuesday. He wants to be the #1 on the pound for pound list. People are talking about him, whether he is the GOAT in MMA. Where do you think he lies as far as that debate goes, Harv?
Well, pound for pound, he's the best lightweight on the planet. In regards to the greatest, I mean, I'm biased, so obviously I say yes. But I mean, yes, that's for the fans to decide. I definitely think he's in the top 3, if not #1, not #2, #3. I mean, the fact of the matter is, dominance, performance, longevity, compared to some of the other ones like an Anderson, like a GSP, like a John Jones. They might have more of a longevity as far as title defenses and title fights, but I don't think there's ever been a more dominant a fighter in the history of the sport. I really don't. And show me all the video. If you think I'm wrong, show me who has been more dominant. And I really can't recall of anybody that's been more dominant that everybody knows who the clear-cut winner is. Mm-hmm. I've never seen it. So for that reason, I would say so. But again, it's for the people to decide, who the greatest of all time is. But I can definitely 100% undoubtedly, not being biased on this one, he is the greatest lightweight of all time. The greatest pound for pound. I might be biased there, but I'll say yes, but I'm biased.
And I mean, Khabib setting an example, retiring at the peak of his career, in his prime, and setting an example to all the other fighters in the organization that you can retire in the prime and the right time of your career. But Coach, now that it's all said and done, and we can say that Khabib has officially retired, I have to ask you, what was your favorite moment out of his career and the moments that both of you guys shared, in his incredible run in the UFC?
The hug, and he said, "I love you, Coach."
At the end of this fight?
Yeah. Love you, Coach. Thank you for everything.
What did that mean to you when that happened, Javier?
Well, you guys almost got me tearing up, so obviously it means everything.
Well, did you ever think that when he walked through the doors at AKA, what was it, 2012, that, you guys would be sharing this moment, in 2020, some 8 years later?
No, I knew he was going to be a champion, but I didn't know he would be with me, to be honest with you, because how can you really know that when 2012 he lives in Russia? It was very difficult for him to live in San Jose, super expensive. It wasn't like he was rich or anything. He was barely struggling to make it by. When he first came to us, he was looking for places to stay. People, I had some people. I had one of my awesome lady coach. She's one of the best wrestling coaches in the world, Carolyn Webster. She put him up in her house. She goes, "I'll put him up." So she put them all in the house, and you guys are going to laugh. So I'm thinking, okay, Habib, I got your situation taken care of. You're going to stay with Carolyn. She's glad to have you, blah, blah, blah. Well, they come to her house where she had some little dogs and stuff. Mm-hmm. And Habib's deathly afraid of dogs. So he's deathly afraid of dogs. So what happened is Habib puts the dogs outside, and they're inside dogs. And he puts them all outside. He puts all his gloves and everything on the trees to dry up with the wraps and everything. And Carolyn calls me up. She goes, I don't know how to tell you this, but I don't know if I can have Habib stay in my house. He threw my dogs outside. I don't know. Habib, what are you doing? What are you doing? He goes, "Coach, I'm afraid of dogs. I'm very scared, And I'm like, oh my God. So she goes, "Well, Habib, I'm sorry, you cannot stay." She goes, "That's okay, Coach. It's okay. Thank you very much." And then, so after that, I had a good friend of mine, Tony Castro, this one of the greatest strength and conditioning coaches. He took Habib up in Hollister, which is where I live now, which is about an hour and 15 minutes away from the gym. So he had him stay with him for a little while. So because of those kind of hardships, guys, it's kind of tough. I mean, but he was loyal. Loyalty is number one with him, and he stayed with me because of love and loyalty and the great training he got and this the friendship and the love he had. Like, I mean, you can see it between him and Daniel Cormier. The whole team loves him, but him and Daniel had a special bond, as you can tell from watching. You can see there's a special bond between him and Daniel. They're brothers for life.
Unbelievable. And both finishing up their careers at such high peaks. It's really great to see. Javier, quickly, before we wrap up, got to ask you, what do you think should happen with the vacant title? A lot of people sort of trying to figure out who should fight for the vacant belt. What are your thoughts on the matter?
100% Dustin. He's proven that he's number one, and he's proven whoever he fights should fight for the title. That's my opinion. I think Dustin is, in my eyes, he's the lone guy. He fought Khabib for the title. He lost to Khabib, but he rebounded back with a great win against Tony. And Tony was number one title contender for the title with Khabib, and unfortunately that fight will never happen now. But I think hands down it has to be Dustin. I think anybody that fights for the title, if it doesn't include Dustin, I think it's a tragedy. I think it's a shame, and I believe that he deserves it more than anybody.
What if it ends up being Dustin versus Conor? Because, that's the fight that's been talked about for a while. Do you agree that that could be, a fitting fight for the vacant belt?
Well, 100%. Conor was dominant in his last performance, regardless what weight it was. Conor's still a top guy. And anybody that in the top five, as long as it involves Dustin, in my opinion, it's a world title to me. In my eyes, it's legit. And so Dustin fighting anybody in the top five is a legit title.
It'll be very interesting to see what happens with the title. But before we wrap, Coach, we've got to find out. I mean, you mentioned it earlier in the interview. You and Khabib will be working together into the future. Give us a little glimpse of that, though. How will that work? Are you going to be flying over to Russia? Will he be flying over to AKA? Where will you guys be working together, and how's it going to sort of look going into the future?
I think we have 3 destinations. Dagestan, which is his gym. I will travel over there. San Jose, AKA, which they love to come, so they'll be coming there. And then Nas, with the Prince over here, they've hosted us. So as long as we keep having fights over here at Abu Dhabi, Nas is going to be our training facility. As long as they're willing to have us here, I would love to continue to come training here. It's the greatest facility in the world. They got the greatest hospitality. I've never been treated so well. And I mean, if you guys were here and you got to witness, it's a private gym, so it's the Prince's own private gym. So not people can't go in. But if you went in there and you've seen what was there and how hospitable they are towards you and friendly, and man, it's you couldn't ask for a better training situation than what Nas has provided for us.
I know, but they didn't want to give Khabib cheese on his burger, which give the man some cheese. I love the videos that you've posted this whole time, Hub. Just the absolute best, and fitting for the absolute best. Like you said, in the UFC's lightweight division, in the history of MMA, and quite possibly the GOAT, definitely the GOAT in your opinion. Huge honor chatting to you just, 24 hours or so after the fight and the event itself. Always love having you on, Harv, and I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.